This is Popimpresska Journal, and we have a series of special interviews with AP Music Entertainment, Joe Vulpis. I'm in behind Lady Gaga, our special guest today, a Fialco family. And I want to ask you, please name yourself. This is Dana.
Hi, yes, I'm Dana Fialco.
And Sharon.
Yes, I'm Sharon Fialco.
And Mr. Fialco, the man behind the whole project, who actually was so supportive through the whole time. And I read all 3 books, and it was incredible how the family came together. So I know you also have Tara.
Yes.
Which was your first daughter.
Right.
And the inspiration for the series.
I based the stories on Tara's early experiences and music. Often teased and isolated at school, Tara would come home to her piano that she got as a gift from her grandparents, and she would play songs that reflected the world around her, that expressed her emotions and her feelings. And some of the songs that she played depicted a musical, magical world where children got along and were accepted for exactly who they were. So.
Now, Joe, how did you get together with Fialco family? Because I know it happened very randomly.
Great story.
It happened very randomly.
I was playing piano bar, and actually Dana came up to me, introduced herself because Sharon was afraid to introduce herself to me. And no, it started like that, and we got to know each other. I actually, initially, I started working with the Fialcos, working with Tara as teaching on piano, and then things started to evolve. They told me about their book, their project. I mean, it was just the ideas and things they were doing, and just somehow I got involved in it, you know, and helping out with production. And then before we knew it, you know, it's just one big family putting out this great project, and you know, everything from tracking to whatever, you know, just whatever we had to do, we did in the studio to make this book come to life.
Well, I had actually begun as our family began the production before we met Joe, and some of the songs had already been arranged. And then when I heard Joe working with Tara in our living room, and there were still some songs that were instrumentals that we had not recorded yet, I could tell that Joe could bring this up to a level of excellence and sophistication way beyond what we were working on. Even though what we were doing was very entertaining and adorable, we knew that Joe could really bring it up to a much more sophisticated level. So he actually worked on the series, and he refined what we had already done, and he continued to continue the project. Mostly what we had left were instrumentals that he worked on with Tara.
Now, the story behind Starabella, I would love for you to tell the audience there, how did it come together? Because all the names and all the, even sounds very different, are so unusual. I never would actually come across and read about it.
Well, this project is different than a usual story that has music added to it. I already had Tara's music, and what I did to write the stories was to put her music together in chronological order because her music already told her story. So my interest was to string the stories together, so to make this project happen. So in other words, we had music first that told its story, and I put the words together to tie the music together.
And a lot of the names that you read about, that you hear in the story, some of them are names that Tara made up when she was a little girl. She had a very vivid imagination, and she would have imaginary friends. Zandrina is one of the names that she made up. So we tried to bring as much of Tara into the stories as we could.
And actually the name Lefisha, the name of one of the characters in our book, my maiden name is Liz, and my married name is Fialco. My first name is Sharon, so I pieced it together and she became Lefisha.
Lefisha.
Yes.
And I know the Oclaf is the back forward, right?
Fialco backwards.
Oclaf is our name backwards. And Dana made up the name Starabella when she was around 3 years old, and it happens to have Tara's name right in the middle, so it was almost destined to become a story one day. And as far as this being a family collaboration, Joe became so much a part of this project, and his feeling was so intense, and his belief in the meaning of the story and the messages that it had we feel like Joe was definitely the fifth member of our family, and our stories of inclusion where everybody has something to offer and you take what everybody has and you put it together to make a whole. So we feel that's what really happened with this project. There was so much talent went into this. Not only my daughters, both of my daughters' talent, and the writing that I did, but our artist also is a very talented, award-winning artist. So we feel it's a collaborative. The result of our stories is definitely because of collaboration.
And don't know why. When you feel like you may even want to cry, all you have to do is give it your best try. Then throw your hands up to the sky and shout ta-da, ta-da-ta-da-ta-da, sometimes just is unfair. When you want to hide away but don't know where, believe in who you are and in your special flair. Then throw your hands up in the air and shout ta-da!
How did you and your husband meet? I want to know because that's probably from the beginning.
Oh my! We're taking a turn this way.
Yes.
Well,
Working in St. Louis, Missouri, and
that you had just moved
I
there.
had just moved there, and I heard of a party that was going on for people our age, and I went to this party and I saw this very attractive young lady there, and I got her name, and I later called her for a date and went out, and from that period on we were always close together, and about a year from that point we got married, and we've been together for 42 years.
Amazing. 42 years.
Yes, right.
And Marvin, I know it was a big decision for your whole family to go to Hawaii. So what was the motives of moving so far away?
Well, I had a job offer there. I was a merchandising manager for a company in St. Louis, made department stores, and a company in Honolulu offered many of the types of goods that I was merchandising in St. Louis. And so they made an offer to me, and it sounded like a very exotic place. I thought I'd go to Hawaii, and I could maybe vacation there and still work for a year or so. And I went there, and I ended up being 30 years there. And while I was there, I realized that the company I was working for, which was a company called Duty Free Shoppers, which operated duty-free shops throughout the Far East, and we could sell an awful lot of macadamia nut chocolates.
Oh.
So it looked to me and others in the company at the time that there'd be an opportunity to manufacture macadamia nut chocolate. So I established a company called Hawaiian King Candies, and I served as president of that company for 30 years, and we ended up with a very attractive place to live, and we're selling a very wonderful product to many tourists who came to Hawaii.
Now, Joe, have you been to Hawaii?
Yes.
So
Not with them, but I've been.
Different.
But I had a lot of macadamia nut chocolates
Oh, did you?
since we met.
How do you think Hawaii affects people? Because I've heard very different stories. What was Hawaii?
Well, I mean, I only went on vacation. It affected me in a great way. I mean, I loved it. It's beautiful. It's not to like, but I think they live there, so they probably could answer that question better. But I mean, I'd say it would affect me in a positive way if I was going back. I would go back any day, if I can afford the time to go. But it's definitely one of the paradise spots on earth. I mean, that's the way I look at Hawaii. It's absolutely beautiful.
The beauty of the surroundings there really influenced Tara's music. She would write songs like, about nature, and the diversity of the people, I think, really helped shape our attitude towards the universality of being people. That we're all different, but we all are one. And Dana, you might have more to say.
Yeah, because I lived there from the time I was 3 until I went away to college. So that was really my entire growing up existence. And I will say growing up in such a diverse community definitely affected my worldview, my sense of people and community. And as a child growing up in Hawaii, it's there's a real feeling of creativity there. There's so much music, so much performance. It's a very gentle place. The people are, I would say, in a way, somewhat kinder. So that definitely impacted me as a person. And of course, just being around all of that beauty always inspires creativity. And with Tara, she wrote songs like Song of the Ocean, Waterfalls, songs that were definitely inspired by all of that. And since she and I started collaborating musically from the time we were little girls, that inspired both of what we did artistically.
Right, and now talking about autism, parts where it was hard at school, right? And kids were kind of not that kind.
Yes, and when I say the people are kind, of course, anywhere you go, if you're different, it's tough. And probably every child has gone through a time when they feel different. But if you are someone who really stands out as different, any community can be tough to be in, and everybody has their insiders and their outsiders. So with Tara, she didn't have a diagnosis of autism when she was a little girl, and there wasn't as much known about autism at the time when we were growing up. So she went through mainstream schools and did face a lot of bullying. She was picked on mercilessly at times in her life. And, I had times in my life where I was bullied as well. But because she did have autism, because the way she interacted with the world, the way she interacted with people was so different, that was very, very hard on her and therefore hard on our entire family. I grew up learning how cruel people could be at a very early age, seeing that through the eyes of Tara, and seeing that type of injustice, and just experiencing the world from those eyes. She and I were always very close, and in a way almost had a symbiotic relationship sometimes, and because we performed together, because we were so close in that way, I really could feel what she was feeling in that way, and grew to have a lot of empathy for her situation, and thereby really anyone who I could see having a challenge, or just seeing the world in a different way.
And how do you think, as parents, the best way to advise parents to handle the situation? People that very creative, they're very talented, they just see world in a different way.
Tara was a very high-spirited child, and she explored her world with great enthusiasm. And she found delight in so many things. And when she went to school, she was made to feel different. And because we didn't have a diagnosis, we were left with a mystery. That's why we titled our first book, Starabella, Mystery Girl of Music. And it's really hard on parents to send a child out who has a great sense of herself into the world to be treated suddenly like there's something wrong with her. When she had a very hard time verbalizing her emotions, but when she got older, she said, children treat me as if I'm doing something on purpose that would make them be mean to me. And that really was heartbreaking. I think what's hardest for parents is not being able to enter that school environment and have more control over what happens to your children. Also, as a parent, not to be able to educate the other children, to let them have a greater understanding of the effect they're having, not just on that child, but on the whole family. And
I know you had a cat too.
Right, we had a cat kick the poodle. Yeah. But that was my motivation to write these books, because I wanted to reach out to children, to introduce them to differences, to create empathy in them, and to allow them to know that these children are not just isolated, but that they have feelings and emotions just like theirs, and they're connected to people who love them. And
I will say something as, you know, as Tara's little sister, growing up, of course, my whole life with her watching my parents, it's really difficult to say what any parent should do, right? Because all kids with autism, I'd say one of the unifying factors is they're all different from one another. But I will say that my parents always instilled a sense of self-esteem in Tara. They always expected her to do her very best, which was her unique very best. They pushed her to achieve what she could so that she could feel empowered and good about herself. And I would say that's one of the most important messages in these stories, that, you know, a lot of kids turn to bullying because they don't feel good about themselves. You know, the people who, you know, when I say cruelty, sometimes that's more coming from how bad they feel, how insecure they feel. Maybe they don't have a parent who's championing them, who's involved in their lives, who are building their sense of self-esteem, so they start to feel powerful by picking on someone else, by making someone else a victim. So I think in any situation, building self-esteem in children is so important.
One of the themes that runs through all of the Starabella books is that Starabella is also a little girl very much like Tara, who expresses her thoughts and feelings through music, and she has great determination.
Very determined, but also her creativity, right? Because a lot of kids do express themselves through their creative, through their art. So whether or not they have autism, if they have, you know, what we call extra challenges or not, if a child has that creative spirit in them, encouraging that, because that's how beauty comes into the world, and that's how, you know, in Starabella, when Starabella in the book in the series where she goes to kindergarten, she feels isolated, but she goes out on the swings and starts singing about her beautiful dreamland where children play and get along, and that's where the other children could look at her and say, wow, she has this talent, she has this vision, she has this imagination. Tara was always very imaginative. She would draw beautiful pictures, you know, of a different world, and that's what her music was about too. And as her little sister, she brought me into that world with her. You know, she would start playing songs, and she would, you know, corral me and say, okay, now you're singing this part. And she really, yeah.
Her piano performances are amazing, because the emotion, you know, a lot of people say autism, you don't sense a lot of, I think when I've heard a lot of emotional responses with such intent, but her piano playing is everything but that, is intense. She would rock to it, get into it. I mean, she would create things, I mean, just it would flow right out of her body. And that was her, I think that was her vehicle of communicating, from what I've seen. And I mean, she could just drop it right on the spot, and it's like, you know, that was probably the way she felt, I think, most in control.
Well, and our family was so fortunate, because as different as Tara and Dana were in many ways, they had music that they could share and bring them together. And they performed in the communities throughout their childhood, and that helped build Tara's self-esteem too. Because when Tara would sit and play her keyboard, she would glow from the inside, And that's one of the themes in our story. I say Starabella is a little girl whose eyes shine like stars when she's happy. And that was based on Tara. Her whole being would glow. And so both of my daughters were very lucky to have one another, and we as a family were lucky because our home was filled with beautiful music because of both of them. Neither one of us were musical at all, and Marvin has relatives who
What's your last
are
name is
musical.
List.
And I think you can hear one of the songs in the story that reminds me most of that and what Joe was talking about with that emotion, and that reminds me of our house filled with music is The Seasons Flow with Music, and that's the song that comes right after Starabella as a character is plunking and plinking on the piano her grandparents send her, and that's where we talk about her determination. She was so determined to turn those sounds into melodies, and then all of a sudden, and as you know, testament to Joe and how he arranged the music and the background, you hear it slowly build, and then all of a sudden, that's a piano solo that Tara does. It's one of the few. She plays a lot of keyboard. Yeah. One of the few solos she does on the piano, and you just hear that music bursting out, and that song always reminds me so much of her.
It's amazing.
Yeah, we say that song doesn't have any words. It's the song tells its own story.
The melody.
Yes.
The melody.
Yes.
All built-in movements. That's incredible on so many different plateaus. And it's all there classically. It's there pop-wise. It's there emotionally. It's everything.
Almost felt like it's a Broadway musical.
A lot of that came from Dana. I mean, we practiced. That's the one we practiced in your apartment. We worked out an arrangement, I think, and then really, I think we spoke of it. She had the melody
and which song
Ta-da, we're
is
talking
that?
about.
Oh, Ta-da?
Yeah,
Ta-da,
I mean, she wrote all
Ta-da.
that melody and stuff, and then just, basically it's, sat in my lap, and I think I suggested, well, we should have a solo here, and, try to keep the time a certain way, but I mean, it was really built around her melody. So she gave that to me, and I said, okay. There you go.
And then throughout, we worked together a lot with kind of dissecting the songs, figuring out how to get the background, because everything, I mean, Joe's put underscoring under almost every part of the story, so it does have that feeling of movement.
Yeah, you want it to
music
connect.
And,
There's got to be some common threads that go from the underscoring to the music. I think that's what strengthens an audiobook, and we certainly studied a lot of them. Before this thing was really considered finalized, and we studied everything.
We came up with a very unusual technique to put this book together by taking different tracks of the songs to underscore the story and leading up to the grand finale of the song itself. So that's where the background came from. So I think it was very unique. I think we probably invented it.
A lot of subliminal hooks. You would hear the song but not realize it at first, and it was great. I think it tied everything in together nicely.
we had a lot of fun doing it. We really did. We had a lot of long days in the studio. Like painting, like as a painter, taking little parts here and there.
Wonderful personality, and every time we met with Joe was really a treat. It really lifted our spirits every time. It's wonderful to work with.
So, Sharon, I would love if you would talk about 3 books.
Book 1 features our heroine, Starabella, at home. And her parents first discover that she has wonderful, many amazing abilities, but some of her behaviors are puzzling to them too. And then Starabella begins to lose her words. They get lost somewhere inside her, and she has a hard time finding them to make them come out. And the family, of course, is very concerned, and their parents sing a beautiful song in this story called It's a Mystery. It's written by Joe. The night before we recorded it, I told Dana and Joe that I want a song called It's a Mystery, and when we got to the studio, Joe already had it, and he played it, and I choked up. I just began to sob.
She was a mess.
Hearing it.
And
I had to leave the room, and I ran into Joe's mother, and she said, "What is he doing to you?" And so that's the story behind this beautiful song called It's a Mystery. And autism is a mystery. People don't understand its causes. They're beginning to know more and more about it, but they still don't have all the answers because it's so different for there are many different causes of autism, so it's very hard to pinpoint exactly what causes it, and then people don't know what to do about it once once they have it. And as a matter of fact, in the back of each one of these books is an article called Our Story, which is written for parents and caring adults who share these stories with children they love.
So book 2 is New Adventures and Mixed Emotions, and this is a story where Starabella, as you can see from the cover, she goes to her first trip to the circus. This book, I would say, is the one where Starabella really learns how important it is to believe in herself. And this is where it shows how important it is for parents to believe in their kids, and whether or not they are reacting to them exactly how they expect a child to react, to find what is special about their child and encourage them to believe in themselves no matter what.
I also want to show the CD. So each book has a CD which belongs right to that.
Yep.
That is incredible.
And the stories are fully narrated. I'm the narrator of the stories.
Fantastic.
On the recording, and so every story has characters and music, and they're really meant to be listened to. There's captions throughout, so you can see there's not a lot of writing. There are captions, so like we were talking about earlier, kids can listen to the stories, or they can while they look at the pictures and follow along. We have prompts telling them when to turn the page, so they know when to do that. And then kids can, after they've listened to the story a few times, they can go through and tell the story in their own words based on the pictures and the captions. So again, however a child learns, or adult, whatever an adult likes to listen to or do to get information, they can do that. I had written a song called The Clown, which it was all orchestrated in here, a song that's one of the fun moments for kids to dance around to. But what really captivated Starabella's attention were the trapeze artists. And so here she's imagining herself, she's singing a song that Tara wrote called The Exciting Circus, that we then added lyrics to. Tara wrote that one as a musical song, although we should say Tara did write words to her songs when she was little, and they were often very magical, about new worlds, about people being friends, with very sophisticated themes for a little girl. She was very philosophically sophisticated, and that's how they came out. This one was a musical.
Yeah, even though Tara had a hard time with social communication, she was very philosophical and could write very beautiful lyrics.
Yeah.
And then Marvin, I know that you went through struggles as well together. How do you think, as a man behind the family, you brought it all together to a success level? Because to me, this is a very big success story. Because your whole family is symbolizing unity, love, of course love, but also very deep understanding of your children and the sensitive side of every issue that you had.
Well, I knew that they had talent, and it was prideful to encourage it, and it would come out. I remember people coming to my house, before they even saw Tara. They heard this magnificent music, and they said, "What record do you have on? That's really terrific, But anyhow, it gave me great pride. But I also thought that this could be something long range, accomplishing for society in general. That people learn to work together and do things together at an early age. Hopefully, when they become adults, that they'll work together. And looking back on it, I think that if kids start experiencing, understanding that bullying and insensitivity just leads to problems throughout their life, if they can learn to cope with these things and manage them as children, hopefully when they're adults, we'll have a better world. And with all the problems that are going on in the world, I think that it's very important that kids learn at an early age to get along, to appreciate differences. An inspiration not only for my own children, for children in general.
Wonderful and inspiring third chapter, the third book.
Yes, this is the book that books 1 and 2 were leading up to. This was the reason I wrote the series. After children have a chance to form compassion for Starabella's extra challenges and root for her to reach her goals, they form empathy for her, so they care what happens to her when she becomes a member of an inclusive kindergarten classroom. In this book, Starabella does not have a label. She's just one of 10 children. And she's in this diverse classroom. We cover a very broad spectrum of children from different ethnicities, different philosophies, different cognitive and physical
types of
abilities. And
then we have a segment where we did all the little characters. We layered all of their harmony.
And they
that was one of
sing
the
All of the
fun.
characters singing it.
Yeah.
There's like this, probably what, there's 9, 10
All the
harmonies
kids.
for everybody. There's a
Yeah,
line
yeah.
for, it's really amazing.
So I went back and recorded the same line
Yeah.
with every voice, and we did a whole little skit.
It's pretty intense.
and we laughed pretty much all the way through.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It was a very special experience playing Starabella as a character, because when Tara and I were little, we used to make recordings. We had to date ourselves. We had cassette tape recorders, and we would sit there and do radio shows together. And years later, we found these old cassette tapes, and that was a time when Tara was vocal on her cassette, and she'd start everything with "I'm going to tell you a story," and just kick it off like that. And I was very taken with her voice on these tapes, so I did my best to recreate the way Tara sounded when she was a little girl.
Which had a tinge of monotone.
A tinge of monotone, and also just very, very enthusiastic and very earnest and sincere.
And the parents say, we're a lucky family. We have the sunshine to start our days and the starlight to end our evenings. Because in each book, we want to show that no matter what, your children bring so much love into your lives, and that you're very fortunate to be a parent. And I especially, and I'm sure Marvin, we feel very fortunate to have had our girls, and we're very happy to be able to share their stories with other children and families. We do a lot of talking to groups, and Marvin has really developed a tremendous insight into the stories, and he's able to verbalize how important it is for everybody.
Inspiring for all children, because virtually everybody has some deficiency. You might have some very bright kids who have trouble socializing. Some kids who are very social have trouble sometimes studying. So anyhow, if you have respect for each other, we tend to bring out the best in everybody. And hopefully by working together, as children, we'll learn to work together and be better adults.
Be comfortable with differences starting at the very earliest stages. Because, what we hear about on the news all the time is trouble with teenagers, trouble with people in their 20s, people hurting one another. And these books are geared to children when they first enter the public arena of school, to make them comfortable with differences and create empathy and something for them to draw back on for the rest of their lives, about the benefits of getting along, and to be able to celebrate what's special in themselves and others.
That's incredible.
And seeing others who have differences, it's not just about accommodating them or tolerating them, it's about celebrating them. And knowing that sometimes, we tend to, if somebody doesn't fit in, try to make them fit in and gear things towards them to try to make them conform. And sometimes it's not about making them conform, but it's about entering their world and understanding how they see things, how they do things, and being able to exist with them in a positive way.
And also to be kind to somebody who might be needing your help. It's not a favor you're just doing. You get something back. You may get a friend, you may get a smile, and the most important thing you get is a good feeling about yourself for having done something nice, and that builds your self-esteem.
Yes.
So being a friend, as we say, is a special gift to give yourself.
And then we always conclude with this question: what are your 3 wishes for each one of you?
Ultimate 3 wishes. I very much wish for all children to hear these stories very sincerely, because I think they are such a positive force in the world, and can add something to their lives, to their self-esteem, and I very much want that to happen. As on a on a personal level, I as with Tara, with my sister going through the world, I do wish for her that people around her learn to appreciate what is special about her and to understand what she's going through, because she's not always going to act like everybody else when we're in public. And I think that's something, for me, growing up with her, I was always aware of, and always aware of how people reacted to that. So I wish for her, I have to say that the word that pops to mind is safety. just safety in this world and safety for the rest of the course of her life. You know, you hear a lot these days about children with autism.
Yes.
And they grow up to be adults with autism, and the world is not yet fully. I think we've come so far in what's available for children. As far as adults, I don't. There's also great progress, but I don't see a lot of structure in place for people who do have a different set of abilities to. And that's why I keep going back to this idea of making someone conform to how everyone else does something. You know, when Tara is in the workplace and she does have a job, sometimes her behavior isn't going to be what they expect. And a lot of times that's about educating those around her, not necessarily about making her always behave like everybody else.
Exactly.
I need a third.
World peace. It's always
that is a good one, and it's relevant. Well, whenever I was, and I won't come true. Whenever I was little, whenever I had a wish, I would always wish for magical powers. Partly because I was obsessed with Barbara Eden, Magic of Genie, but also,
I think that was a guy's thing too.
But that aside, I will say that there's an element of magic in these stories, and I think when you do hear about little kids and what they go through sometimes in school, which can be absolutely heartbreaking, I do have a wish that little kids do keep that sense of magic in themselves, and I wish that for myself going forward, to always not to be hardened, not to be cynical, but to keep that magic that's within me, that's within all of us. And Sharon?
My wishes are very similar. Naturally, we hope that these stories get to as many children as possible, because I feel that the world is asking for these stories. Every time I hear a news item about cruelty and bullying and the most terrible things that happen to people, I feel we have the story. We have this gift that we can give to children, and it's our passion as a family to get this out to them. And very similar to what Dana said is, you know, raising a child who's different, you work so hard to try to teach them to conform to the world, to meet the world's expectations. And what we realize is the world needs to work harder to accommodate children in our communities and in schools, to keep their self-esteem as great as they can, and also because they do grow into adults. And our culture is not providing enough for them as far as vocation and housing and ways for them to really express fully all, you know, what they have to offer to society and what they can do. They need to have the opportunity. And my third wish is that something that's already come true in my family is to have a sibling of a child with extra challenges who turns out to be as miraculous and magical and wonderful and well-adjusted as Dana, to have all this compassion and love, and also be able to succeed on her own and to fulfill her own dreams. And I would wish that for other siblings of children with extra challenges.
Thank you. And Marvin?
Well, I guess my main wish is that the wishes of my daughter and you know, I wish that you know, many children from many backgrounds will have an opportunity to hear the beautiful music and art, and view the beautiful art in the books and hear the beautiful music, and I guess third, that they'll get some get the messages of respecting children with from many different backgrounds, be it cognitive or physical or whatever, and learn to appreciate them and work with them to make a better world for everybody, and learn this at an early age.
There's one thing I want to say too. It's one thing that our family created this, and we had the materials to do this, we had the incentive to do this, and my daughters have the talent to do this, but it wouldn't have come to fruition if we hadn't met Joe, who could bring it forward.
You had a vision.
And no,
I
because
appreciate
it
that.
so much matters with whom you find to make this a product. And we were very fortunate to meet Joe. And I think he brought this up to a level of excellence that just doesn't exist in any other so-called audiobook.
No, it's amazing. It's great.
And I mean, because there's nothing else like it. And it's more like radio theater, I've been told by some people. And after trying 4 artists, I finally met Anton Petrov, and we were able to communicate across the continents. He's
in New
lived
Zealand,
in New
right?
Zealand, and I would draw these pictures of the clothes and scan them. I drew it with crayons and send it to him, and he made it all seem so easy, where everybody else made it seem difficult. And so we are so fortunate to have had 2 people join our family to do this, to make it a reality.
Yeah.
So thank you, Joe.
Thank you. My 3 wishes: health, happiness, and understanding.
Amazing.
Wonderful.
That's wonderful.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. It's been amazing
you all.
experience.
Thank you so
And,
much.
and I hope a lot of people out there, and also we will bring it to the attention of UN as well, this whole interview too. So
thank you.
Looking
Thank
forward to share this with everybody else out there.
And it was so nice to meet you. And
Our pleasure.
I know that
Thank
you have so much talent as an artist yourself, and now what you're doing with your magazine is really fantastic. So one thing Starabella has done for us, she's taken us, she's helped us meet so many wonderful people on this journey, people we wouldn't have known or met otherwise, and it was wonderful to meet you.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored. Thank you.
Popimpresska!
Great. Thank you.
When you want some sunshine.